Right, so in this video I'm going to talk to you about why you should stretch, the main benefits of stretching, and how you can stretch. So I'm going to get into the main details of that so you don't have to look anywhere else for any other kind of information. You got it all here. I will tell you exactly how long you have to hold a stretch, for how many minutes a week you have to stretch a certain muscle, and the frequency. So you will learn everything that you have to learn by the end of this video. Just keep watching. Alright, I'm gonna start this off by telling you what the main benefits of stretching are so that you can get a certain image formed in your mind about stretching and why it is important. I'm gonna be honest with you, before finding out about these main benefits of stretching, I just kind of did stretching as something that I knew was kind of helpful, but I didn't really know how it was helping me. But after finding out these main benefits, bro, I'm never gonna stop stretching. I genuinely don't think I'm ever gonna take stretching out of my exercise schedule now. So the first main benefit of stretching, which is obvious, is that it improves your flexibility. And by having improved flexibility in your joints, in your overall limbs, in your muscles, you have less chances of actually getting injured while doing an exercise, while doing any kind of certain activity with your body, with that certain muscle, with that certain joint. So this is the main benefit which people actually take stretching as useful for, right? Usually most people do this after having some sort of injury at the gym or in other kinds of sports, right? And in order to offset that injury, in order to repair from that injury, they stretch and they do stretching. So that is one important benefit of stretching. Another one is that stretching in itself, it helps you relax your body. The process of stretching a certain muscle in itself is connected to the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is basically that part of your nervous system which deals with your sense of calmness or alertness, right? And so by stretching, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which makes you feel like you are suddenly more calm or more relaxed. If you've stretched before, you know this. After you finish stretching, after you finish holding that stretch in, it might be a little bit painful, or maybe it's not. Once you finish that stretch and you just sit down for a moment, you feel like in a blissful state, don't you? At least I do. I know that I do. So if you're facing stress of any kind, I honestly believe that stretching will help you relax and it will help you get rid of that tension within your body. Another interesting main benefit that you probably haven't heard about is the fact that by stretching, you can double or more your pain tolerance. So by stretching, you can double the amount of pain that you can face, and this pain being this heat or cold pain, right? So for example, you're going into a very cold ice bath or a very cold shower if you don't have an ice bath, right? And it's literally freezing, like you cannot feel your hands after you touch the water, right? You will be twice or more able to tolerate that pain, that discomfort of having that very cold water, or maybe even that very heated water. So let's say instead of a very cold shower, you have this awfully hot shower. By consistently stretching, you can literally double or more that pain tolerance. Isn't that interesting, man? Another benefit is that it can increase your self-awareness while you are in certain stressful or painful situations. You might know, if you stretch hard like me, that when you are in that middle of that very hard stretch and you are at the point where you feel like your limbs are just gonna fall off, right? I don't really stretch to the point where it's actually going to injure me, but sometimes it feels very uncomfortable and even painful. So when you're at that point, you learn how to manage that pain. You learn how to manage that interior voice which is just telling you stop, 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 I don't like this. And you tell yourself, look, this is good for me, this is gonna help me. And once you come out of that stretch and you feel relaxed, you have just leveled up. Now, whenever you will be in that next stressful or painful situation, you will have more control over your own mind, over your own thoughts, over your own impulses, because you have personally and willingly subjected yourself to that discomfort by stretching. Another important benefit of stretching is that it can really help you increase your longevity. So if you want to be that kind of a person that wants to live for a long time, then stretching and regularly stretching, so doing it consistently, is going to help you so much in terms of your physical health in your later years of life. By keeping your joints and your muscles healthy by stretching, you're adding like a few more years of active life to your overall lifespan, right? So that's amazing, isn't it? You're adding a few more years in which you can walk, in which you can even run maybe, in which you can lift weights, in which you can do all these other kinds of things, which if you weren't to stretch, you wouldn't have been able to do in your later years. So if you want to live for a longer time, then add stretching in your daily routine. And now the last benefit, which I think is really interesting, and I saved this for last for a reason, stretching has been proven in recent studies to reduce tumor size by more than 50% in animals. So basically they took mice with like mammary breast cancer and they subjected them to a stretching routine of some sort. Don't ask me how they stretch a mouse, but all I know is that they stretched a mouse for 10 minutes every single day up to the point where it wasn't that painful. It was only like a mild stretching. Like, I don't know how you can call mild stretching for a mouse. Don't ask me, right? But what I do know is that the results of this study showed that for 10 minutes of stretching every single day for that mouse with mammary breast cancer, the tumor size was almost halved. 50% of the size of that tumor went away because of stretching. We don't really know the effects of stretching in this certain context on humans, but just imagine if this were to be the case in humans as well. That'd be honestly crazy, wouldn't it? Alright, so now that we've gone over the main benefits of stretching and some interesting info about it, I'm going to tell you some extra factors which I think will be very useful to you. So the first one is the fact that your flexibility will start decreasing between the age of 20 and 49, and it will keep decreasing afterwards. But this, between 20 and 49, this is the age when it will start decreasing. If you weren't to stretch regularly, you would be going to lose about 10% of your overall body's flexibility every 10 years. And this is not linear. So you will not lose 1% of your flexibility every single year. But you might find yourself, after 2 years of not really feeling any kind of change, to then losing like 5% of your flexibility, just like that. So regularly stretching and keeping this as part of your lifestyle is very, very important. And also there's 4 types of stretching, right? We have dynamic stretching, we have ballistic stretching, we have static stretching, and we have PNF stretching. I'm not gonna go into great detail on dynamic, on ballistic, and on PNF because they don't really matter all that much, especially when we talk about our main goal being increasing flexibility. But I do need to mention that dynamic, ballistic, and PNF stretching, you can look that up and you can find exactly what it is about. I'm not going to go into great detail. They are still very good for maintaining your overall health and maintaining some of that flexibility. But if you want to build flexibility and do it to the most effective extent, then research has shown that static stretching is the best way to go. So in this video, I'm going to focus more on static stretching. Maybe in the future, I'll make some more videos about the other kinds of stretching as well. But for now, let's see what static stretching has to say. And so, as I said a moment ago, it is a proven fact that static stretching will help you improve your flexibility better than any other kind of stretching. Keep that in mind. Before I get into all of the details of how long you have to stretch for how often and how you should do it and everything, I'm going to tell you exactly what static stretching is. So static stretching, in comparison with ballistic or dynamic stretching, which require a lot of momentum. Ballistic, for example, if you were to just hold yourself on some sort of support with your hands and just kind of swing your legs around like that, to one side to another, right? And if you were to let that momentum bring your leg up and then let it come down again and do that and just swing that leg around using your momentum, then that is ballistic stretching. And dynamic stretching is a different form of ballistic stretching, I believe. It requires a bit less momentum. But static stretching requires no momentum. So, for example, if you were to right now try and touch your toes, right? So standing up on your both 2 feet, and you were try to bend down without actually bending your knees, and you were to try to touch your toes, you would want to do it as slowly as you possibly could so that you don't add any kind of momentum to the movement so that it can be a static stretch. So keep that in mind, static stretch does not involve any kind of momentum, any kind of actual fast movements. Alright, and now let's get into the details of how often you should stretch and for how long you should hold a stretch. So in terms of how often you should stretch, it is recommended that you stretch for at least 5 days a week for at least 5 minutes per muscle group per week. So stretch 5 days a week, and in those 5 days a week, it doesn't matter how you divide that time, you need to have at least 5 minutes of stretching per one muscle group in order for you to actually gain flexibility, right? So you don't have to do 5 minutes of stretching every single day. You have to divide those 5 minutes of stretching per muscle group within all of those 5 days of stretching per week. So maybe you do like 1 minute of stretching per muscle group today, another minute tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And how long should you hold a stretch? So it is recommended that you hold a stretch for at least 30 seconds, but holding it more than 30 seconds, so let's say like 60 seconds, there's no actual proven benefit to it. So it's basically the same if you were to hold it for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. So I'd recommend that you hold it for 30 seconds, right? You hold one set of stretching per muscle group for 30 seconds. So again, let's use the example where you try to touch your toes again, right? You bend over, you're trying to touch the ground, right? You hold that static stretch for 30 seconds, and then you come back up, and then you have a break, you have a pause for around 60 seconds, right? Let's say double the amount of time that you spend during the exercise. So 30 seconds in the exercise, 60 seconds in a break. And after those 60 seconds, you go back in, right? You do another set of stretching. You go down, you hold your toes, you're trying to touch the ground again for 30 seconds, and then you come back up, and depending on how many sets you want to do, that's basically what you're going to try to follow. 30 seconds of stretching with 60 seconds of pause. And in that break of 60 seconds, you can also stretch other muscles within your body which are not directly correlated to that certain muscle that you stretched before. So if you were to stretch your hamstrings, by trying to touch your toes, that's the muscle that you're stretching, right? Your hamstrings. Then once you're done and you're in your break of that 60 seconds, you can stretch your arms, for example. Maybe you can stretch your shoulders. And in this way, you can actually save a bit of time, because I know that not a lot of us have time to stretch. And a lot of us don't even have the time to simply exercise. So the more compact that you do it and the less time that you waste, the better. There has been research made which has shown that low intensity static stretching is actually more useful than medium intensity static stretching when it comes to improving your flexibility. So if you want to improve your flexibility, if that's your goal, then low intensity might actually be better for you. What do I mean by low intensity static stretching? I mean around 30 to 40% of your overall capability to stretch, up until a point where it hurts and you feel physically repulsed. So around 30 to 40% is not a lot, it's low intensity. And in these studies, for this kind of stretching to be effective, the people who have done this stretching have held the certain stretch for 60 seconds, not 30. So you can try to experiment with certain things, right? You can try to do low intensity static stretching, 30 to 40% of your overall capability to stretch, hold that stretch for 60 seconds, or try to do more of like medium intensity to higher intensity static stretching, where you do more like 80%, maybe even 90% of your overall stretching capability, and you do that for like 30 seconds or something like that. I think in the end, it also comes down to how you feel the changes in your body happen. So you should experiment and see what works for you best. But I personally try to do more intense static stretching because, I don't know, it just feels like I'm actually making more progress that way. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll also try low intensity as well if the research shows that it's actually better. It is recommended that you warm up before stretching so that you increase your body temperature a little bit before you actually start stretching. You can do that by doing 5 to 10 minutes of cardio before your actual stretching session, or you can just simply do your stretching session after a certain workout of any kind. Maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're doing some other kinds of sport. After you finish that certain part of your workout, you'll already be warmed up, right? And so you don't need to do any other kind of warm-up. You can just go straight to stretching. But if you're gonna do stretching at first, before your workout, before everything else, then try to get your body temperature somewhat higher so that you can avoid any kind of injuries. And I do also need to mention that your range of motion will be different on certain days because of external factors like tension, like stress, maybe even like the ambient temperature in the room that you're in when you're stretching, or internal factors. So your overall range of motion will differ on certain days. So don't get pissed off when you're not going to be able to just fully grab your toes on one certain day and you're able to do it on the other and you're just wondering what the hell is happening, right? Sometimes there are just certain factors within the environment, within your body, within the external world, which are affecting your ability to stretch, maybe in a positive or negative way. So this is just like the gym or any other kind of sports workout. You're gonna have better days and worse days, right? So I'm gonna leave you off with this idea that if you stretch more on certain days, then you can limit the overall days needed to stretch per week. So if you stretch more today and if you stretch more the day afterwards and the day afterwards, then you can stretch less on the days that remain. Or you can just kind of alternate, depends on whatever kinds of schedule you have. So if on one day you have more time to stretch and you feel like on the other days you won't have that much time, stretch more today because that will still help you increase your flexibility. But try to get at least 5 minutes of stretching per muscle group per week. So yeah, man, I'm not gonna hold you here any longer. This video is long enough as it is already. If you have gained any value from this video, then why not subscribe to this channel? Why not like this video? Why not share it around with other people who you think might be able to gain some value from it as well? If you want to join my self-improvement Discord server, you can do that by clicking the Discord link in the description of this video. If you want to go on a free self-improvement one-to-one coaching call with me, entirely for free, you don't have to pay any money. We can talk about self-improvement tips and advice about your journey, my journey, anything self-improvement related. Then just click the Calendly link in the description of this video. It will send you to my page. So yeah, man. I hope you have a wonderful day, bro. And I'll see you next time. Good luck.